The cold metal floor echoed under Evan's boots as he entered the research base. He was a new technician, transferred from Earth to the outpost known as Station 12. Everyone called it the Cage, because that was where they kept the most dangerous creature ever captured. A living alien girl from the wild planet of Zira. The soldiers said she was savage, violent, and untamable, but no one had seen her up close and lived to tell the full story. Evan wasn't a soldier, he was just a maintenance engineer. He repaired machines, cleaned equipment, and fixed things that broke. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want attention. But that day the commander pointed at him and said, "You go inside with it." Evan froze, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. The glass cell in the middle of the room shimmered under the white lights. Behind it, the alien girl sat on the floor. Her arms bound by energy cuffs, her skin glowed faintly silver, her eyes golden like a predator's. Her long, dark hair fell over her shoulders. Tangled and wild, she looked young, maybe his age, maybe a little older, but there was something about her. Something not just alien but broken. She stared at him, silent, breathing slow. Like a cornered animal, the commander smirked. "Let's see what the human sympathy does now." They opened the gate. Evan stepped inside, his heart beating fast. The door slammed shut behind him with a heavy hiss. He could hear the other soldiers laughing through the intercom. 10 credits say she rips him apart in under a minute, someone said. Evan tried to ignore them, his palms sweating as he held the tray of food and water. "Hey," he said softly. The alien girl tilted her head, not moving, not blinking. Her golden eyes followed his every step. He placed the tray on the floor and took a step back. "It's okay, I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. She blinked once, slow, cautious. Then she made a low growl that echoed in the glass cell. Evan froze, his breath caught in his throat. But she didn't attack. She just stared at the food. Minutes passed. She slowly crawled closer, moving like a wild animal unsure of safety. Her fingers touched the metal tray. Then she looked up at him again, suspicious. Waiting, Evan nodded slightly, trying to show peace. She picked up the cup of water, sniffed it, and drank. Her hands trembled. For the first time, Evan noticed scars on her wrists, deep burns from the cuffs. He swallowed hard, something in his chest tightening. "She's not savage," he muttered under his breath. The soldiers watching through the glass laughed again, one said. "You'll change your mind when she bites." But Evan couldn't stop watching her. Her movements weren't violent. They were frightened, like she was used to pain. Not kindness. He took a step closer. Her body stiffened. Her claws rising slightly, he stopped, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "Easy, it's okay," he said softly. Her golden eyes narrowed, glowing faintly under the lab lights. Then, to his surprise, she whispered something. Her voice was weak, trembling, but clear enough to understand. "Help," she said. The word froze him in place. She could speak, she understood before he could answer. Alarms blared through the base, red lights flashed, and the door behind him locked automatically. Through the glass, the soldiers scrambled to their stations, shouting orders. Something was wrong, very wrong. Evan turned back to her. The alien girl looked terrified, pressing herself against the wall. "Stay calm," he said. Though his own voice shook, the intercom crackled. "Containment breach in Section B, all personnel remain in lockdown." Then the speakers cut off with a sharp hiss. The lights flickered, plunging the room into half-darkness. Evan backed away slowly. The alien girl crawled forward, her breathing rapid, her chains rattling. "Please," she said again, louder this time. Evan looked around. He had no weapon, no key, no plan. But something deep inside told him she wasn't the danger right now. It was everything outside that was. Suddenly a tremor shook the room. Dust fell from the ceiling, and one of the light panels shattered. Evan fell to his knees, covering his head. The alien girl screamed, a sound not of rage but fear. She crawled toward him, shielding him with her chained arms. It was instinctive, protective, shocking for a moment. Evan could only stare. Her eyes met his again, filled with terror and trust all at once. "Why are you protecting me?" he whispered. She just stared back and whispered one more time, "Help me." The sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside. Soldiers shouting, guns cocking, the hum of machines powering up. The commander's voice roared through the speaker. "Keep the human inside. Let's see what happens when sympathy meets survival." Evan looked at her again. She looked so small now, trembling in the dim light, and he knew then this was no monster. This was someone broken, lost, and trapped. Just like him, outside the cell, a shadow moved behind the glass, not human. Not hers. Something else had escaped, and as the lights flickered one last time, the alien girl reached for Evan's hand through the dark and whispered one final word before the power went out. Run. The emergency lights turned red as the alarms kept screaming through the base. Evan could feel the floor shaking under his feet. He had no idea what was happening outside the cage. But the soldiers' voices had turned from laughter to panic. Something big had gone wrong. Something worse than the alien girl beside him. She crouched close to him, trembling, her golden eyes glowing brighter in the darkness. Run, she whispered again, her voice shaking, but there was nowhere to run. The only way out was the locked steel door. Evan looked around desperately, searching for a panel or switch. The power flickered once more, and sparks flew from the ceiling. He turned back to her. Her energy cuffs were pulsing with light. Glowing hot from the power surge, her wrist smoked, and she screamed. Without thinking, Evan rushed to her side. He grabbed the cuff, trying to pull it off. The metal burned his fingers, but he didn't stop. Her eyes widened as he tried to help her. No, she whispered. Hurt you. But Evan ignored her. I don't care. Hold still, he said through gritted teeth. Suddenly she lunged forward, her mouth opened, and her sharp teeth sank into his hand. Evan shouted in pain, falling back. The soldiers watching through the glass shouted too. She bit him. She bit the engineer. Evan clutched his hand, blood dripping. What the hell, he began. But the girl didn't attack again. Instead, she pressed her forehead to the floor and started shaking, her body glowing faintly blue, energy swirling around her like mist. Then silence. The alarm stopped. The lights dimmed to a low red hue. Outside, footsteps ran past the door. Soldiers yelling orders he couldn't understand. Evan stared at her, breathing hard. What was that? He whispered. Her voice came out soft and broken. Bond, she said. You safe now? He blinked, confused. Bond? What does that mean? But she didn't answer. Her breathing slowed, her eyes closing as if she were falling asleep. Evan crawled closer, still holding his injured hand. The bite mark glowed faintly, the pain fading strangely fast when he touched it. A spark of warmth ran up his arm. It didn't feel like poison, it felt alive. Like something inside her had entered him. Not infection, but connection. Evan leaned back against the glass wall, his mind spinning. The soldiers outside were shouting again. One of them yelled, "The alien's vitals are syncing with the human. Shut the cell down." But the intercom died before they could finish. Static filled the air through the smoky glass. Evan saw shapes moving, soldiers firing their rifles. Something big slamming into walls, and then a heavy crash shook the entire lab. The alien girl's eyes opened again, glowing brighter than before. She pushed herself up, breathing hard. Evan stared as her cuffs flickered and broke apart with a metallic snap. What? How? He whispered. She looked at him, her voice low and trembling. Your blood, my bond. Free now. Then she stumbled, weak but standing. Evan reached out and caught her before she fell. Her skin felt warm, soft, almost human. She looked up at him, her face inches from his. You hurt? She asked quietly, touching his bitten hand. Evan shook his head. I'll live. She gave a small sound, half laugh, half sigh, her claws retracted, her golden eyes softening. The door behind them exploded open. Smoke filled the room as two soldiers stumbled in, shouting, There! Get the human out. Terminate the creature. Evan stepped in front of her without thinking. Don't shoot! He yelled. The soldiers ignored him and raised their guns. But before they could fire, the girl moved. She blurred forward, faster than his eyes could follow. One soldier flew into the wall, his weapon crushed in her hand. The other screamed as she grabbed him by the vest and threw him through the glass wall. Evan stood frozen, his ears ringing. She turned back to him, breathing heavily, her expression full of fear, not fury. She didn't attack again. Instead, she whispered, They hurt you? Evan shook his head slowly. No, you can't do that. They'll kill you. But she looked at him with something strange in her eyes, something like loyalty, like instinct. No one hurt you, she said softly. Then she collapsed into his arms. Her body trembling with exhaustion, Evan held her, unsure what to do. He could hear more footsteps coming down the hall, more soldiers, more guns. He looked at her face, calm now, her breathing steady, her head resting against his chest like she belonged there. For a second, the chaos outside faded away. It was just her heartbeat and his. Steady and connected, he whispered. I'll protect you. I promise. And for a brief moment she smiled. The intercom buzzed again. The commander's voice thundered through the speakers. Containment failure. The alien is bonded. Kill the human if necessary. Evan's blood ran cold. He lifted her up, her arms falling around his neck weakly. I'm getting us out, he said. The red lights flashed one last time, and a loud metallic door began sealing the corridor. He ran toward it, carrying her as fast as he could behind them. Explosions echoed through the lab, and as the smoke thickened, she opened her eyes just long enough to whisper, Evan? He froze. She knew his name. How? He whispered, but she only smiled weakly and said, Bond. The emergency sirens had stopped. Only the low hum of broken machines filled the hallways. Evan carried Karenna through the smoke, his arms trembling but his grip firm. Her body felt light, almost fragile, and her silver skin was warm against his chest. He could feel her heartbeat, fast but steady. The bite mark on his hand glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with hers. Whatever she had done, it had changed something inside him. He reached a side corridor, half collapsed with sparks raining from the ceiling. The path to the hangar was blocked, so he ducked into a small med bay instead. He laid her gently on a table. The lights flickered, showing the small wounds and burns on her arms. Evan found a first aid kit and started cleaning them. Her eyes fluttered open, golden and soft. She looked at him, confused, whispering, Why help? Evan smiled weakly. Because no one else will. She watched him carefully. Her head tilted when he touched her wrist. She didn't pull away this time. Instead, she studied his face and his eyes, his mouth, the trembling of his hands. You not like others, she said quietly. Her accent heavy but her words clear. Evan nodded. Maybe I'm just not cruel. She blinked, trying to understand the word. Cruel? Means bad? She asked. He nodded again. Yes, very bad. Her lips twitched into a small, broken smile. You good, she said softly. For a moment the war outside didn't exist. Only the two of them breathing in the dim red light. The intercom buzzed faintly above them. The commander's voice crackled through static. All units report to containment. The alien has bonded with human subject. Authorization to terminate both. Evan froze, looking up. Karenna tilted her head again. Terminate. Evan hesitated, then whispered, It means kill. Her expression changed instantly. Her golden eyes darkened, her claws tightening. No one kill you, she said quietly. Evan smiled bitterly. It should be the other way around. But she shook her head. Her voice firm this time. Bond means protect. Before he could answer, the sound of boots echoed outside the med bay. Evan looked around quickly, spotting a vent grill near the ceiling. He helped her climb up first, her movements slow but graceful. Then he pulled himself in after her. Just as the door burst open below, soldiers entered. Scanning the room, one muttered, They were here. Another kicked the table. Search the lower deck. Their voices faded as the two crawled deeper through the vent tunnels. The air was hot and thick with dust. Evan crawled behind Karenna, trying to stay quiet. Every sound made his heart jump. Every metal creak felt too loud. She moved ahead of him like a shadow, graceful even in tight spaces. After a while, she whispered back, You tired? Evan smiled despite himself. A little. She looked back, her glowing eyes soft. Rest when safe. Her words were simple, but the care in her tone hit him deep. They reached another maintenance room and dropped down quietly. Evan collapsed against a wall. Breathing heavily, Karenna stood beside him. Scanning the room with sharp eyes, she found a blanket and covered him with it. Clumsy but gentle. He looked up at her, surprised. You don't have to, he said. She tilted her head again. You cold? He laughed quietly. Yeah, a little. There was silence for a moment. Then she sat down next to him, her legs folded under her. I hear humans lie, she said suddenly. Evan turned to her. What? Lie, she repeated. Say not true. He sighed, thinking, some do. Not all. She looked away, her voice quiet. Humans hurt me, many times. His throat tightened. I'm sorry, he said. Not all humans are like them. She looked back at him, her eyes glimmering with something new. Trust you. Different, she said. When you help, I feel. She paused, searching for the right word. Warm. Evan smiled softly. That's called kindness. She repeated the word slowly. Kind. As he nodded. Yes, it means caring even when you don't have to. Her lips curved again. Kindness, she whispered, almost like a promise. The floor trembled suddenly, dust falling from the ceiling. A deep roar echoed from somewhere far below. Evan looked around, confused. What was that? Karena's eyes widened. Hunter droid, she said. They send machine. He stood up quickly, grabbing a wrench from the shelf. A machine to kill us? He asked. She nodded once, her voice calm. It smell fear. He swallowed hard. Then we better not be afraid. The sound grew louder. Metal claws scraping the floor. Karena stepped in front of him, her claws extending, her wings half unfolded. Evan stared amazed. As the faint blue light shimmered around her skin again, the door burst open. The hunter droid stepped through, its red eyes scanning, its metal arms whirring. It saw Evan first, charging forward. Karena moved like lightning, leaping over him, her claws slicing through the machine's neck. Sparks exploded everywhere. The droid collapsing with a hiss, Evan covered his face, then looked up at her, standing tall in the smoke. Breathing heavily, her eyes blazing, she turned to him. Safe, she said simply. Evan nodded slowly, still stunned. Yeah, he whispered. Thanks to you. She gave a small nod, her voice softer now. We protect. Evan smiled faintly. Together, and in that broken, burning corridor, a bond stronger than fear began to grow. Smoke curled through the vents as red lights flashed across the metal hallways. Evan stood beside Karena, staring at the broken droid on the floor. Its red eyes were dim now, sparks dying like fading stars. He could hear distant alarms again, growing louder with every second. They know where we are, he whispered. Karena nodded slowly, her golden eyes narrowing. We go now, she grabbed his hand, her grip strong but gentle. Evan followed her through the corridor, stepping over wires and broken panels. Every turn brought new danger, gunfire echoing somewhere below, the hiss of steam bursting from pipes. Karena moved like she knew the base better than anyone. Evan realized she might have memorized every hallway from her time as a prisoner. They reached an elevator shaft. Its doors jammed open. Karena looked up, her wings stretching wide. Hold, she said simply before he could question. She wrapped her arms around him and leapt into the dark. Wind rushed past them as her wings beat hard, slowing their fall. They landed softly on a lower deck filled with smoke and shadows. Evan stumbled but stayed on his feet. Still amazed she could fly, he looked at her and whispered, You're incredible. She tilted her head again, confused. Incredible? He smiled. It means amazing. She smiled back, a shy, almost human smile. You also amazing. They ran again, hearts pounding. The intercom blared. Containment level 3 compromised. All squads intercept the human and the alien. Karena hissed under her breath. They come. Evan grabbed a fallen guard's keycard. Then we moved faster. They turned a corner and froze. A full squad of armored soldiers stood blocking the hall. Weapons ready, Evan stepped in front of her, his arms raised. Stop! Don't shoot! The commander stepped forward. The same man who had laughed when Evan first entered the cage, he sneered. You don't understand what you're doing, boy. That thing isn't your friend, Karena growled. Low and sharp, Evan shouted back, She's not a thing. She saved my life. The commander raised his pistol. Then she'll die for it before he could fire. Karena moved like lightning. She pushed Evan aside and charged through the soldiers, her wings slicing the air. The hallway filled with screams, sparks and shattered metal. Evan covered his ears as blinding light burst from her body. Not fire, not energy, but pure force. When the smoke cleared, every weapon was broken. Every soldier unconscious, Karena stood breathing hard, trembling, her eyes still glowing. Evan ran to her, catching her before she fell. You're hurt, he said. She shook her head weakly. You safe. They reached the hangar doors just as heavy shutters began to close. Come on, Evan muttered, sprinting toward a small shuttle on the far side. Karena followed, limping slightly, her steps unsteady but determined. He used the stolen keycard to open the hatch. Pulling her inside, the engines whined to life, flickering with low power. Hold on, he said, gripping the controls. Karena strapped herself beside him, looking out the window as soldiers poured into the hangar. Bullets pinged against the hull, sparks flying across the cockpit. Evan slammed the launch button. The shuttle lifted off, spinning as it broke through the smoke. For a few seconds they were weightless. Then the stars filled the glass, vast, Endless and silent, Evan laughed breathlessly. We did it. Karenna smiled faintly, her head resting against the seat. Free, she whispered. He looked at her, the bite mark on his hand still glowing softly. Her breathing slowed, exhaustion washing over her. You rest, he said quietly. I'll fly. She nodded, eyes closing. Trust you. Outside, the planet shrank behind them. A burning red sphere fading into the void. Evan guided the shuttle toward deep space. But the radar beeped suddenly, multiple signals approaching fast. He frowned. They're sending interceptors. Karenna stirred, her voice weak but clear. Not human ships. Evan looked closer. She was right. The shapes were different, sleek and bright like silver wings. They follow me, she whispered. My people. Evan's heart raced. Your people? Then they'll help us, right? Karenna shook her head slowly. They think I dead. They see Bond. They kill. He blinked. Kill? Why? Her eyes opened halfway, sadness glimmering there. My kind. No bond with human, forbidden. Evan clenched his fists. Then we'll make them understand. She smiled weakly. You always say can even when cannot, he grinned. It's called hope, she repeated softly. Hope, as if tasting the word. The radar beeped again, the alien ships closing fast. Evan looked out at the glowing stars. Then back at her. I'll protect you, he said, his voice firm. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest. No. We protect. Their bond mark pulsed with light, spreading warmth through the cockpit. Outside, the silver ship surrounded them. Evan held the controls tight, ready for whatever came next. Karenna's eyes opened fully now, glowing like twin suns. Time to show them who we are, she whispered. The shuttle's lights flared bright as the bond between human and alien queen awakened completely. And for the first time, the galaxy trembled. The stars outside the cockpit glowed brighter than ever. Evan's hands tightened around the controls as the alien ships surrounded them. Their sleek silver hulls shimmered with energy. Their weapons armed and ready, Karenna sat beside him, her golden eyes calm but full of pain. They will not listen, she whispered. They see Bond, they see shame. Evan looked at her, his voice steady. Then we make them listen. The radio crackled with an alien voice and sharp, cold, full of authority. Unidentified craft. Surrender the human and return the queen. Evan frowned. Queen? You're their queen? Karenna nodded slowly, her voice soft. Before capture, I rule. Before pain, I love peace. He stared at her, the truth dawning. They tortured their own queen? She lowered her head. They not know I hide my name to protect them. A flash of light blinded the cockpit. A tractor beam locked onto their shuttle, pulling them toward the largest ship. Karenna touched his arm. Do not fight, Evan swallowed hard. You sure about that? She nodded once. Trust Bond. Moments later, the shuttle landed with a soft thud inside a vast alien hangar. Dozens of armored warriors stood in formation, their armor glowing blue. At the center stood a tall alien general with silver markings across his face. He pointed his spear toward Evan. Release the human. Karenna stepped forward, her voice echoing across the chamber. No. Every soldier froze. The general blinked, his voice uncertain. Your Majesty? Karenna stood tall now, her wings spreading wide, light rippling from her skin. Her voice grew stronger, commanding. I am Karenna of the royal line. I am not your prisoner. The warriors knelt instantly, their weapons lowering. The general bowed. We believed you dead, my queen. Karenna's tone was cold but sorrowful. You believed too quickly. You let fear rule you. She looked back at Evan, her expression softening. And you forgot what it means to feel. The general glanced at the human nervously. The bond is forbidden, Majesty. It must be undone. Evan stepped forward before she could answer. Undo it, he said, his voice rising. She saved my life, I saved hers. That bond is why she's alive. The general's eyes narrowed. You are a contaminant, Evan stood his ground. Maybe. But I'm also proof that your queen's heart still beats for something real. Karenna raised her hand. Silencing them both, she looked at her people, her voice calm but unyielding. For too long we believed strength came from walls and chains, she said. But I learned something stronger. Compassion. She touched Evan's hand, their bond mark glowing brighter than ever. This human showed me kindness when I had only known pain. Her gaze swept across the kneeling soldiers. If this is forbidden, then I will break the law myself. A deep murmur filled the hall. Some soldiers looked afraid, others awed. The general bowed his head at last. Your word is law. My queen, Karenna stepped forward. Then hear my command. No war, no revenge. No hate, she raised her voice. Wings spreading wide, we rebuild with peace. We live with honor. Evan watched her, speechless. In that moment she looked both alien and human, and fierce, radiant, and full of grace. The hangar lights dimmed as the great ship shifted its course. Karenna turned to Evan, her eyes shimmering like sunlight on gold. You are part of my people now, she said softly. Evan smiled. I never wanted to be a king. She tilted her head, smiling gently. Then be my heart. He laughed quietly. That I can do. Outside, the stars stretched endless and silent. Karenna's fleet surrounded them, not as hunters now, but as guardians. Evan looked out the window, whispering, What happens next? She leaned closer, her voice warm and steady. We make new story. He turned to her, smiling. Together? She nodded. Always. The ship's engines roared as it entered warp speed. The light of the stars bent around them like ribbons of fire. And somewhere deep in the void, two worlds that once feared each other began to heal. The savage alien queen and the human engineer, united by trust, love, and a bond the universe had never seen before. Their story was no longer about survival. It was about hope, and hope once born can never die.